Hey guys, it's Miss Burton, and if you've already done my first two videos, the best stick figure ever and the best cartooning shapes ever, then you are ready to move on to facial expressions for cartoon characters. Woo! In the sake of time, I have gone ahead and pre-drawn a selection of facial features. Let's see if I can do this. Starting with the eyes, I made a collection. Starting with just a simple tall skinny oval, little dots, little black dots, ovals with filled in circles or partial circles inside of them, tall skinny ovals that are a little less skinny and have a little bit of a white spot inside. That would be a highlight. That would be to show that your eyes are wet. Similar idea with a slightly larger circle with a little indication of a highlight. And notice with these particularly that I've repeated the shape of the highlight and the side of the eye. You don't want it to be symmetrical where it's flipped on one side. You want it to be on the same side. So in this case, it's in the upper right, upper right. All right, two ovals that are overlapping. They have a dark oval inside to represent the black pupil. All right, kind of what would have been a half oval if I had drawn the line all the way across. You can draw the line all the way across or not. An arc, part of a circle, or part of an oval in here that's been kind of cut off. And you could choose to have a light area for reflection or not. You could choose to add in a simple eyelash or not. Okay, a tall oval that's been cut off, so it looks like maybe this one, and we see kind of the cheeks coming up. Okay, this looks sort of like the Peanuts from Charles Schulz, like some of the eyes you might see in those characters. And it looks like kind of a weird apostrophe. So like we're starting to make an oval and then we add an oval at the end, or almost an @ sign. Just an arc up to reflect closed eyes that are maybe smiling. Little eyelash if you want. These would maybe be doing some side eye. It's just kind of almost looks like the capital letter A on its side, but I made a pupil that's just a little bit there. Maybe this is a sneaky eye. Maybe this is somebody laughing. I see a lot of people doing this with an emoji. An X would indicate this person is expired or maybe they've been knocked out. And then maybe a sleepy person with the arc going down, and you can add eyelashes or not. So what I would recommend is go to your favorite comic strips. A website I really recommend is gocomics.com. They have a ton of different comic strips that you can look at. You can look at the current date comic strip. You can look at comic strips of cartoonists who have passed on or who have retired and they do reruns and syndication. So what I really recommend for you if you want to collect a lot of really cool cartoon eyes is look at your favorite comics and see how the cartoonists are making those eyes. All right, so same idea with noses, some simple shapes that you can make into noses. Got almost a complete oval here. We have a complete oval on its side. We have an oval with two ovals on either side to indicate nostrils. The bridge of the nose coming down here, and then the shape of the nose. So some different shapes, a long skinny one, kind of a triangular nose with a fancy nostril, a sort of a beak-shaped nose, kind of a pointy nose with a nostril, a rounded nose, a rectangular nose, two little dots for nostrils, and then maybe just the underneath line showing where the nostrils would go. So this is not meant to be a complete collection. Again, take a look at your favorite cartoon characters and do yourself a favor and make yourself a collection like I have done. Ears, I just went super simple. I started with a backward C shape, and of course the other side would be, no, that is a forward C shape, Miss Burton, nice job. A little arc under there to indicate the earlobe thickness. This is a little bit of a fancier ear, and here's a kind of a detached Buddha-shaped earlobe. Take a look at your favorite cartoon characters and see what they have. This is by no means a complete collection of mouths. Some kind of fancy plumper lips, face on, sideways. Somebody looks kind of happy. Maybe they're talking. A surprised mouth. It could be small, it could be big. Just a happy little curve. Maybe they're grimacing. They've got their teeth showing and they look a little freaked out, a little scared maybe. This person might be yelling. They might be singing. You can see a little tongue underneath there. A little echo line to show thickness of lip above and below. Just kind of a curvy line. Sad, disappointed, surprised. All right, happy face. So mouths really do make the expression for a cartoon character. The nose isn't going to do a whole lot. They're not going to change a whole lot. The ears are probably not going to move around a whole lot. But where you really do see your facial expressions are going to be in your mouths and your eyebrows. So these are ones that you should be changing around as you're doing your cartoon character. Eyebrows, just some thick eyebrows. You can have some curved eyebrows. You can have some fancy shaped arched eyebrows. And maybe you've got one up high and one down low. You've got eyebrows that are slanted in. Oftentimes this is a person who's maybe angry, a person who might be sad or frightened. They've got their eyebrows arched and curved inward. Slight upward arc, maybe a little bit of surprise, and nice classic unibrow. Okay, so next I've given myself some basic bean shapes here. You can have a bean where it's smaller on the top and larger on the bottom. You can have it kind of equal. You can have one that is smaller on the bottom and bigger on the top. Okay, whatever kind of bean shape you want to use for a head would work. You can use other shapes for a head. You could use an oval, you could use a triangle, you could use a rectangle, you could use a square. Many different shapes will work for a head. I just really like the bean. I find it very, very useful and versatile. So let's just stick with that for now. So I have a head that looks like it's turned to one side a little bit. So if I want to draw the center of this, it's not going to come right down the middle. It's going to follow that curve and it's going to be a little bit over to one side. So I'm just going to follow those shapes down and give myself what I'm going to call hemisphere lines, even though it's not really a sphere. Okay, and the midpoint, I'm going to curve this a little bit around like that. So that's just a guideline to help me figure out where to put the different facial features. So I'm just going to pick from my set of eyes, and I'm going to go with this classic oval shape here. So let's try that out. So I'm going to go on either side of that middle dividing line and above this hemisphere. Now, if I were doing a realistic face, those eyes would be right around the middle of the head, but for a cartoon character you can put them above the middle. So if this person is looking to their left, to my right, then they're probably going to turn their pupils in that direction. And you can decide if you like the look of having them be more or less congruent shapes, the mathematical term there, the identical figures, or if you would want them to be slightly different. You can decide if you want to have a little white spot for a reflection in there, and you can give it a try shading it with graphite to see how you like it. With graphite you can always erase. Once you ink it, then you're stuck with it. So I'm going to go into my collection of noses and I'm going to ask myself which nose would I like for this character in this case. All right, I'm going to pick one. So I'm going to go with kind of, it looks like an upside down backwards letter or number 7. Okay, kind of a triangle there. And if you turn the head, then you might get the bridge of the nose, which is kind of the top part. It might kind of block part of one of the eyes, and that's okay. So this is, I'm going to let this person be a little bit surprised. So I'm going to put a curved eyebrow up above, give some space above the eyes. If you want this person to have thick eyelashes, then you can draw some little eyelashes. There's been a stereotype. Cartoonists love to stereotype, and maybe we can, in 2020, we can move beyond stereotypes if we'd like. But oftentimes a cartoonist would gender a character by adding eyelashes for it to be a female. But as we know, there's no rule that says a female has thicker eyelashes. A male or a non-cisgendered, a non-binary person could prefer a thick eyelash that they wear, or maybe they naturally grow them. So if they're going to be surprised, I'm going to do kind of a weird thing, what cartoonists might do, and play around with space and kind of break some of the rules. So if I want this person to be surprised, I could just have a curve of a mouth. I could make it shaded in. Okay, and it's just kind of, oh, and this person's a little bit surprised. Okay, so I've got that simple expression, and then I can put the ear right around the middle, kind of bring it over here. So I'm just going to do a simple ear. I like a simple ear. With cartooning, keeping it simple is a really good idea. Okay, so there's my basic facial features, and you can, maybe I'll put a little curve under there. Yeah, I kind of like that. All right. So you can decide what else is happening with your characters. You can decide what kind of hair you want to give it. If you're going for realism, the hairline often comes around in front of that ear. And different people, there's really a lot of variety in the world about how hairlines go. If you want to do a widow's peak, you can curve down to that line there and curve over. Maybe this is disappearing on the other side, and I'm not sure I'm going to see that ear, but I could do a little outline and decide later. I can give it a nice chubby cheek. I can curve it around. I can bring this down further if I want. Now, hair usually goes above the top of the head, so I can make it as fluffy as I want. But do keep it simple, or not. It totally depends on what you're going for. Now, some cartoonists get pretty fancy if you're doing graphic novels or like the DC Marvel type comics with the superheroes. Oftentimes they really get into the details and the muscles, etc., etc. So what we're doing here is just kind of a simple cartoon character. All right, so however you want to do that. Okay. Now, I have not really exaggerated the proportions of this nose. I notice I have kind of an exaggerated mouth in that it's extra small. Eyes on a human aren't this size. Give it a little neck. Okay, and then you can be thinking about what you would do with this person's body language. You want to exaggerate body language when you're cartooning. It's a really good idea. All right, so another one, let's give a totally different facial expression. I have this head turning to face this character here. And maybe this one said something surprising, and maybe they're kind of fiendish. Maybe they're kind of sneaky, or maybe they're mean. I'm going to go ahead and give them, I'm going to start with this, looks like a loaf of a baguette or something like that. I'm going to give them little beady eyes. And then if I want to show that they've maybe got some unpleasant intentions, I could do that. And I'm going to show some teeth here. You can keep that simple. So you can decide if you want this person to have any thickness of lip or not. I think I'm going to bring this in so I can play with that bean and decide how I want that to look. Okay, now with the sneakiness, they might not have their eye very open. They might have, maybe they're kind of laughing. So notice how much the feeling of, keep bumping into the tripod here with my eraser. Notice how much the feeling changes as you change the eyes and the eyebrows. It's kind of amazing how much that can change. So if I bring, let's see, thicken those eyebrows. All right, give him an ear. It's gonna be back here. So if I'm one cartoonist and I'm drawing more than one character, I would advise or encourage you to have some similarities in how you're drawing the facial expressions and not go completely different with your shapes and your sizes, your thickness of line. Okay, and I'm thinking about I really need practice, let's be honest, with cartoon hair. I'm used to doing more realistic hair. So this person just has some wispy bits. And a little spindly neck, and I could go back and ink that later. Okay. And for the sake of time, I'm going to let you think about what you would want to do with that third bean shape that I have there. And I'm going to go ahead and end this for today and let you think about what would you do with your collection of facial expressions. Again, I recommend going to a website like Go Comics. If you have books of cartoons, comic strips, cartoon characters that are really special to you, then take a look at how your favorite cartoonist draws their facial expressions. All right, I'd love to see what you guys do. Have a great day.